Hello, hello, welcome to the stream. Hope you all are having a great Saturday, wherever you are in the world. And yeah, gonna be doing some drawing, some watercolor. I've already been working on this one for a bit, and basically I've chosen what I want, how I want to lay it out for the most part. So I've taken the smaller thumbnails that I can zoom out here. I've taken these smaller thumbnails that we've been working on in the last stream and blew it up to a bigger one. Did a full color study on it with my references. It's a lot of references combined. I'm not really drawing them exact, besides the things that need to be. But yeah, so still doing the finishing touches on here and tweaks. And the point of doing the same painting over and over again for me is to just really get a hold on what I'm going to do when I waste a lot of expensive paint and move to a big canvas. So I can be as efficient as possible. I've already had the experience of mixing the colors and getting them as close as I can. And so that all helps a lot. So I'm still watercoloring this right now, and basically just kind of jumping around the picture right now. I'm not working on any specific spot. Hey, what's going on, Stephanie? Welcome. Yeah, me too. I'm having lots of fun with it. I am very rapidly becoming obsessed with watercolor and ink and gouache. It's just, it comes out so awesome. I just like the way it looks. I'm also, now that I'm getting used to it and how it bleeds around and controlling like the pigment and stuff, it's becoming much more fun because I'm not guessing as much anymore. Definitely we'll see more watercolors coming out. So I'm going to see if I can get it a little bigger here. It's about as much as I can blow it up on the screen for now. And it's a little tilted, but that's fine. I can't get the camera perfect. So as you can see, my palette over here is filled with all sorts of colors. Actually, before I continue, I need to get myself a new test sheet, which is basically just a blank piece of paper I use to test the colors before I put them on the picture. And for those of you that don't know, this is the Blue Bonnet cabin that I've been working on. So just a blank piece of paper like that. I put it over here on the side. Test my colors. So I'm gonna move this stuff over here for a second. Cool. So I already have my gray mixed over here. And it's very dark. But that's fine. I'm just gonna water it down. Water is white. And it also desaturates watercolors. So I'm going to see what that does. And basically I just wanted to kind of detail a little spot I was looking at with these clouds a little better. And basically what I wanted to change about them was that they were a little bit too liney, whatever that means, if that makes sense. Like, I wanted to make it look more like a front moving in, or at least just a group of clouds moving in from the left. And to do that, I just had to connect this stuff a little bit more here. I also had to wait for it to dry because just the way it goes with watercolors. Otherwise you keep lifting up the color you just put down. Say the play with watercolors is really about, or the trickiest part I'm finding is like getting the right amount of pigment. Not so much finding the right color, but how diluted it is, basically. But what prepared me for working with watercolors unintentionally was basically drawing with these ink brush pens that were grayed with water, and I kind of had like that epiphany of like, oh, it's exactly the same thing but just black and white. Like, it's like the way that like the water works over itself. So I've got a little head start there unintentionally, which is pretty cool. That kind of translated. But yeah, just darkening these clouds. Not much. Not overdoing it. I'm in the touch-up phase at this point. I'm gonna add a little bit more blue. Wasn't dark enough. It's better. I just find it very fun to layer. That's what it is. I mean, I'm already starting to see how many tricks there are, or how many tricks there are to discover. Even just how like the water kind of does strange things according to what it's next to, I'm discovering. So like even like some of the pen and ink spots, the black ink spots would like kind of suck the water towards it when it was near it on the edge. And hey, welcome, Auntie Laura. There you are. I'm so torn. I don't know whether to reorder Willowwood or commission something. The struggle is real. Too bad that that disappeared. It's so strange. Hey, Auntie June. Good to see you here too. Thank you. Yeah, so basically, to catch you up, we've moved from the thumbnails of the tiny sketchbook because I've decided how I want to lay it out. So I've moved on to a larger color study. So I'm practicing how I want to color it, basically. This is the first iteration that I'm working on today. I'm gonna go ahead and do another one. And I just sketched this out in pen and ink, no pencil. I just kind of like how it feels, and like, again, I've been trying to do my ideas with ink. Makes me commit more. Yeah, this is a watercolor and gouache together. I'm just really loving how it looks. I thought that was the finished product. Nope. Be a very tiny finished product, as you can see my hand. But the whole point of doing these studies is, before we move on to a big piece, it'll make me more efficient. I've already practiced mixing the colors and everything, and kind of seeing what works and seeing what doesn't. There's some choices I made in here that I might not necessarily make next time. Yep, I added the Indian paintbrushes. But I'm liking the scene I picked. And it's generally going to be the same on the next one. I'm going to alter a few details. I'm going to space, let's think about spacing this shed a little bit more this way, because in actuality it is a little bit farther. But I'm not going to be too exact to the real life thing. Just the structures, but not the placement of them. Having fun kind of designing how they're placed in the field. But I also, instead of the overcast, I really like the sunset kind of more glowing, sunny, warm vibe rather than the overcast day. So I definitely changed that about the atmosphere. Looks great. Thanks, Stephanie. You captured the roof and the windows perfectly. Awesome. Well, the blue can next to the shed was in one of the pictures that you gave me, so I tossed it in there to see what it would look like, and I just kind of liked it because it was part of the kind of random farm equipment and tools laying around the yard. There's a lot of that, and yeah, I'm just kind of combining all these. I have like probably 20 pictures. I've even gotten more of my own, 25 pictures, and I'm taking elements from all of them. Like, for example, I really love the way the log looks on the truck picture right here. I just love like the gray wood. It just really makes the place look old and abandoned when you see that really dried out gray wood. Hey, Melinda Judy, how you doing? I haven't seen you around in forever. How's life? Good to see you here. Thank you. This one's it's a mixture of references combined together. And I'm kind of interpreting what I see. I'm not copying them exactly. Besides the proportions of like the truck and the house, just because the painting is about the Blue Bonnet house. So when it comes to proportions on that, I'm going to make it accurate, but everything else is basically just a combination of different ideas. Yes, I like the old tools. I just figured that would be too much time to do. No, I mean, little tools laying around in a painting are just a little paintbrush stroke, pretty much. The majority of the work comes in like the stones and on the house and stuff. That was one of the most challenging things to get accurate, was all the different colored bricks. And I still didn't really. Again, I'm not gonna go. This is still technically a thumbnail, just a bit more of a detailed one, a little more involved one. So I'm making mental notes as I do this, and when it comes to making things more detailed, that will happen in the final product, which will be interesting because it will be an acrylic, so it won't look like this. It'll have the same colors, but it'll look a little different in the sense of how the colors lay over each other and the texture. And again, I'm jumping around here. I'm not working on anything in particular. Little details. So basically, I'm adding these like little green buds that are at the tips of blue bonnets. They're like yellow green. I absolutely love it. Awesome. I'm so happy that you like what I came up with. Took a couple tries, 15 tries to find how I wanted to lay it out. So, but that's why I like the thumbnail process. It's very useful in designing something when someone needs it to look a certain way. When it comes to me having fun and just painting something, I don't plan it out as much, but when it comes to doing a good job on a commission, I like to use the power of design. Won't be adding more blue bonnets in the center on this one, but I wanted the white flowers to be their territory there, because in the picture of the blue bonnet house, I really liked how there was blue bonnets in the foreground and then the white flowers in the field. Well, actually that wasn't in the picture, but I'm combining, again, like I said, combining like 5 pictures together. So it's like I'm taking like the foreground of one, combining it with the midground of another. I'm turning it in perspective, so like I don't really have a picture of these buildings in this perspective at all. I just have what they look like, and I decided to rotate them a little bit more like this, so you can get a view of the whole yard with all the items in it. So it's just, there's a lot of aspects I'm experimenting with. Color ratios, like 60-30, 10-5, 60% yellow, 30% green, 10% blue, 5% red. And when you follow those ratios, the color's more balanced. That just comes from things I'm studying, learning how to paint better. So I'm trying to apply it. I hope you don't mind the questions. No, it's because the comment section's for. Everyone can type whatever they want. It's a free world on social media. Okay, what was a little more detail I was going to put in the grass color, that's what it was. I think I need you to fly in so you can see the house for yourself. Someday. Is it near where you live? I'm just mixing some, it's like this yellowish brown, basically. And it's pretty much just, there's like this dead grass here and there, in minor amounts. Yeah. Brown didn't get quite dark enough for me. Actually, I'm using the wrong brush. 20 miles away, huh? Not bad. It's an average drive for a big state. It's a short drive, actually. Okay, a little bit over here. Trying to fill in the white spots as well, so that it looks all full. all these little tiny white spots that I missed with my brush strokes. It happens. Toss a little back there. This medium is so fun. Been having so much fun with watercolor and gouache together. Just does so many good things, and it's really nice and clean. It's great for studying something before painting. I can fly on the 26th of Tuesday days I celebrate. The 26th of what month? Alright, gonna do a little experiment here with color. Get some yellow. Full highlight going on here. Basically, it should be kind of a greenish color, thinking correctly. No, that's not gonna work. I won't be able to fly out the 26th of this month. I really appreciate it though. Some other time. Some other time indeed. So I'm gonna get some gouache. Gouache adds opacity. And will hopefully let me put it over this pole here. Let's see. I think it's too watered down. I know, there we go. That's good. Just want it to be a touch. Just makes the pole feel like it's in the sun. There's no direct sun shining in this, so the light's going to be coming from directly above because of how it reflects. Add a little to this maybe. Just give it that little bit more of a glow. Yeah. Something like that. See what a couple birds flying in the distance feels like. Zoom in, show you. It's very delicate. Very easy to mess up tiny brush strokes. Let's see, maybe this one. Maybe this one's gliding. So he's gonna look more like. Gliding one. Because it's such a profile view, kind of see a little bit of the body. Like that. Alright, cool. Some buzzards. I'm happy with that. I'm gonna move on to the next one and begin the sketch. Let's see. But we haven't even done the most satisfying part. Here we go. Oh yeah. That's always my favorite part. Looks so cool. It looks so cool in the sketchbook to me when it has that margin. I use painter's tape. Oh, it's so satisfying. Yes, the tape peel. The tape peel. Just have to be careful. The other reason I use the tape is not to only do a margin, but to prevent the watercolor paper from wrinkling and buckling when I paint. Keeps it nice and flat. Just gotta go nice and slow. So satisfying. Taking like the cardboard off the back more than it is on the watercolor paper. Trying to keep what I'm doing in the camera shot. It's hard to do both at once. Yeah, it's stuck to the back of the sketch pad more than the paper itself, which is surprising because it's more porous. There we go. The last line. Let's get a close up on that. Nice. Best part of every watercolor painting. Just like I like how that looks in the sketchbook. I didn't do it with the first couple, but then I started doing it and it just looked too good, so there's where I started doing it. Nice. Another one in the watercolor sketchbook. It says super thick paper. I'm gonna definitely be filling this one up. Now all I gotta do is just let it dry for a second before I turn the page and press it into the one above it. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I'm definitely keeping the sunset. I like the sunset. Or the sunrise. Could be whatever. And the acrylic painting, the colors are going to be much more rich. Much more vibrant. The colors, watercolors, well, watercolor is more transparent, but I did use gouache, pure white gouache here to really make that be blinding. And that's what I love about the gouache. You can bring it into accent. But now I must sign it. The signing pen. Sure. Fountain pens are so satisfying to write with. My new favorite pen ever. Don't use anything else anymore. Can refill it. Never runs out. Could last years. You take care of it. Comes with, like, you can get cleaning kits and just keep it maintenance. Cool. Moving on. So, gonna do one more of these, and then I'm gonna move on to the main painting. Get going on that. Mechanical pencil. Basically, gonna have to watch me do a little bit of setup here. Making sure it's not still wet. I'll have to take this off stream later and spray it with some clear matte varnish. That'll seal in the colors forever, so if it gets wet, it won't fade anymore. I learned a hell of a lot about watercolor doing this one though. Man, look, that gouache is just so vibrant. What I read about gouache is that they add like twice the amount of pigment, or the size of the pigment granules is ground more coarse, so that I don't know how long I can watch. I am so OCD and I keep wanting to ask questions or make comments. Well, if you can't handle it, if it's too much, then you know, you gotta do what you gotta do. You might keep your sanity by waiting until the painting's done before you see it again. Some people are like that. I remember when I did my little sister's painting, she told me I couldn't show her any progress. And she refused to watch the streams, so it would be a surprise. Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of sketch out a little border here. I've been doing 1.5 millimeters. I'm sorry, 1.5 centimeters. kind of like the size of that border. Any bigger than that, it's a bit too much paper taken away. But that's the gap that I chose that I like to sign in with my signature. Slide it down. And I don't measure it both ways because it takes too long. I just eyeball it, and when my brain sees that close to a perfect square, then I just hit the dot there. And I'm not concerned if it's 1 millimeter off. This is more my practice study sketchbook. And even then, if anyone bought it, and I really still don't care if it's a millimeter off. Three millimeters maybe. 1, nah. Speaking of OCD, it's definitely something I am too, because I'm a perfectionist when it comes to what I'm doing in my art. But I've had to gain the wisdom to let some of that OCD-ness go in order to let the art flow a little bit more. Or otherwise I find myself getting too concerned about my lines being so perfect, and then next thing you know, I've spent all this time erasing and trying to get one line right when I could have finished out the idea. And I found it to be much more quality to get the idea out. The overall idea, more than the details. Save the details for the last thing. So I allow myself to get lines wrong here and there, slightly off. And it adds some style and also allows me to get through the drawing and complete the idea, like I said. And I find that the more ideas I get through, that the better I get at drawing it. And the final adjustments just comes down to a line being a millimeter to the left or the right, and that's easy to remember at the end. If I have the basic proportions to where I know it's within a few millimeters, then in the final product I make that mental note for later and adjust it accordingly. And that's pretty much the design process, more or less. All the details. They have lists of like things to look out for, like direction and mood and temperature, and I actually have the list screenshotted in my phone to where I try to go through that list in my head. I actually want to look that picture up because I can't remember them all right now as I'm trying to think of them. And honestly, this line is more to lay out the tape, because I remember I tried to do it before with just dots, and the tape curves if you stretch it a little bit, slightly, so I found it just easier to have the pencil line and make sure the tape lines up with it. Now I'm doing a 1.5 centimeters from the perforated edges, not the actual edge of the paper, so that when I rip it out, it'll have the perfect border. I realized that edge doesn't show up on the camera too well because it's bright. And okay. This reminds me of painting houses right now. Just laying down miles of tape on floorboards and having to have it perfectly straight. So, safe to say I have some hours into sticking tape on things. And I'm not worried about these lengths being perfect because it just folds over the edge, and I just have to get it to where it stops the watercolor from hitting within the picture frame, or with outside the picture frame. There we go. And I'm not pressing it down like crazy on the whole thing, because what happens is it gets too stuck to the paper. But what I do press down is just the very, very edge, and I just run my nail just on that, because that's the seal. Even in painting houses, you want that to be the most stuck. The rest doesn't really matter, because once it gets past that seal, then it bleeds. But in this case, we're not on trim in the house, we're on delicate watercolor paper, so that is an added factor. I got told you couldn't use tape on paper. Well, looks like I'm breaking the rules of life then, aren't I? If you delicately peel it off later, it comes off fine. And I wrap it around the whole sketchbook to the back so that it adds extra support to the watercolor paper staying flat. And this was just my little self-invented way of not taking it out of the sketch pad until it needed to be. And it just worked, so. It also worked nice when I was out on the go and I had to put it on an easel when I was painting that flood picture. I'm very new to painting, so I'm just trying to learn. Oh, well. You can use tape on paper, as far as I'm concerned, as long as it's weak tape. So masking tape can work, but I would say painter's tape is the best because they design it to be waterproof and also not sticky. I'm not sure if masking tape, if they put any kind of primer or sealant on it to prevent extra bleeding, but I know painter's tape, like from Home Depot, that's what I've been using, and it works brilliantly. As before, I don't know if you were here. Maybe I've only used shit tape. Yeah, it's possible. I've used shit tape before, and it bled, and also was too strong, ripped up the paper. I've seen YouTube videos of people using electrical tape, but I went with the painter's tape just because I had it laying around and it ended up working. And I have a bunch of it because I'm a painter myself. But I saw a video of one of my favorite educational people on YouTube that you should check out called Marco Bucci, and he uses electrical tape on his watercolors. Yeah, give it another try. And like I said earlier, just don't like super flatten out the tape. Just, a little on the edge there. Not much. And you can see here on this last one, you know, the edge came out perfectly straight. You can see there is no bleeding. And that was one we started the stream on, which is I'm working on thumbnail color studies for the giant acrylic I'm about to do, which when we do that, we're gonna actually switch to another camera angle, and basically, so you're gonna be looking over my shoulder because the painting's so big that I don't have a camera that can attach to the table and be far away enough from it, so I had to like put a camera super far behind me. I think the dimensions of the house and the shed are spot on, but I just imagine the house being taller. Okay. Noted. Wow, that's pretty. Thank you. Appreciate it. Also, another question. Shouldn't the truck be larger because it is in the forefront? Well, technically, it depends on how big the house is compared to the truck. Perspective's a funny thing. I could show you all sorts of examples where things should be bigger, but they shouldn't be. Actually, in when it's mathematically perfect, they aren't. And there's ways you can lay out grids and make it perfect. And so I put it on the back of the sketch pad, like I said, to prevent it from buckling. Perspective is awesome. I find it so fascinating. I recently just touched up on my knowledge with it going through a class online, and it is awesome. Awesome to play with. And I think every artist out there should have perspective down. I paint acrylic so far. Nice. I've mainly painted acrylic myself, and that's actually what this painting is leading up to. But I've recently gotten into watercolor and gouache because I really like drawing with pen and ink. It was one of my first mediums as a kid, and when I got into color, I kind of put down pen and ink for a while because it's black and white, but when I realized how well watercolor went with it, it like revitalized my entire energy over using that medium. So I've been super inspired with it lately, and all my work on acrylic has paid off. Translates for the most part. The medium's definitely different to work with, but as far as like color theory goes and color mixing, that stuff is all relatively the same. Okay, I'm clueless about dimensions, just perspective. Yeah. Last question, do I get to have a short chat with you after your last sketch game? Yeah. Okay, there we go. Have the border set up. It's not staying on my table like I want it to now. There we go. Here, let me put it on my clipboard. You get to have a short chat with me, but you don't get to change anything. I'm just kidding, relax. Busting you up. It's set in stone. Put this ruler here so it doesn't damage. Put a dent. I'm just gonna double check it's not smudging one last time. Okay, it's good. Dry. Okay. I'm going to put that aside. Next thing I have to do is clean the watercolor palette. And I want to start with a whole new set of colors. Not a whole new set of color choices, but my new palette, because as you can see, it got very messy, which is good. And from what I've experienced with painting is I find it useful to just let things mix together. Not be too concerned about colors bleeding into each other, because colors bleed into each other in reality. So it kind of, it works with you when you let them mix a little bit. And color theory is a deep subject, but more or less color kind of rubs off on the color next to it and the color next to it. That's why color theory is so difficult. It's because it's all about what color the context, what context the color is in. So you can take the same color and put it next to 8 other colors, and it's going to have a different relationship, make you feel a different way, and also look different. So that's where it gets really complicated. But there's a lot of controls out there that you can use to organize your color. And when you study color theory, I suggest bringing yourself through simple color themes up to the advanced color themes. Like starting monochromatic, which is just one hue with black and white and variants of gray. And it's amazing the amount of things you can do with just that. Then you add another color, and then another color, and then another color. And then there's all theory on the color wheel, where you have split complementary themes, which is 3 colors. Analogous, which is colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. So that would be like picking like pink, purple, and blue, and doing a painting with just pink, purple, and blue, black and white, and getting different hues like that. So it's just a deep topic, but I find the most difficult color themes to pull off are the ones with tons of colors, because there has to be a balance with colors, I've noticed, and from what I've learned. And what I mean by that is if you have like red, turquoise, and say orange for your colors, you have to basically just limit how much you use each one. So like 60% of red, 30% of orange, and then like 10% of turquoise. And what happens is it allows one of the colors to be the focal point. And when you don't do that and everything kind of has the same ratio, everything's yelling at you and asking for attention in the painting. And that's just one of the little ways to organize color that helped me a lot when I learned it, is to limit the amount of each color that I'm using. So I actually have to go get a cloth really quick to wipe the palette, so I'll be right back. My current painting from tonight is a bird's nest in brown, gold, and beige. Nice. Cool color choice. Yeah, there's infinite amount of things you could do with that using black and white. So I have this little spray bottle. That I have to refill. refill. That's how easy watercolor is to clean. Literally, it's just the best. Acrylic, I gotta get like a scraper, and I have a glass palette, and then I gotta scrape it off. Just falls off. One more spray. Seems to be a little bit cloudy. What will you be sketching now? Just another version. Just gonna improvise another version. Not think about it too much. It's more about the color for me than it is about laying it out. I'm trying to just play with the colors. Actually, I'm gonna refill my drink before I continue too, really quick. Let me get my. Be right back. Sorry. Just stop the camera. I'm taking a break, dude. Sorry about that. Kind of had to remake a drink. All right. Keith, what's up, dude? I'm so glad you caught that. That's just one of the new bullshit skits that I made for fun. That was insanity. I tried to make it insanity. What's going on, brother? Looking forward to chilling, man. Doing some jams. Be happening soon. Alright, so just kind of reopening all my reference windows on my other monitors over here. Keep things fresh in my mind. Like I said, I have like 15 or so pictures up. Okay. Clipboard seems to help it stay in place on the table. So, actually, how's this thing doing? Oh, we're still good. When I sketch with pen, instead of construction lines, I just lay things out with dots. And I just memorize what dots for what. Hey, I appreciate the follow so much. Really, really appreciate that. Where are the stars? I don't see where I can buy them anymore. It's probably because they shut me off, because there's this hilarious thing with Facebook where they only let you get stars if you're playing a video game. And they didn't give me a category to pick in my streaming software for art because they just don't have one. So basically, I'm just burnt, and they don't let me. So like when I stream for Facebook, when it doesn't have a game category, like if it's not like Jokum's playing World of Warcraft, then it doesn't actually count towards anything or towards giving my stars. So when I was doing more video game streams in the start, I unlocked stars for myself, and basically that allowed me to have it for a while. But when I started going more into art streams and they didn't have that category for me, I think I saw a warning. There was like 14 days or something before you're gonna get shut off from the stars. But I'm honestly like, I'm not gonna like play a video game for 8 hours a week just because I need to do that to keep stars. And that was my decision. Like, because what if I want to do that, spend that on art, like, and I want to stream art, like that just straight up means they don't cater to my content. So, like, honestly, Twitch and YouTube cater to my content the most. Yeah, here. And I appreciate that so much. I was actually just thinking I've been meaning to do that, so I can do it live. And here's what I'll do. So I'll just leave that up now because I can't get stars anymore. I've been meaning to do it, so thank you for reminding me. And do that. Editing your stream layout live. Who knew? There we go. Okay. Done. Anyway, let's get back to sketching. So, there's another thumbnail I had that I liked that I am going to attempt to recreate the more detailed version of, and it was this one here. Because I just liked how there was a path going, so I want to try to do the path. So I have that off to the side, my thumbnail idea, and I'm going to sketch that. And the other thing I liked about it was the house kind of sat kind of over up on a little bit of the ground kind of came up a little bit more. And made the house look just more, I guess I would say tall. Made the house look taller. If I was to compare it to my other thumbnail, yeah. Chimney comes up to about here. So first things first, I always go for a horizon line and imagine where I want to put my vanishing points after that. And where I put the horizon line on this one was about here. A little bit higher than the land. Slightly. That's about a third of the paper. So I'm just going to dot there. I'm not too concerned about it being perfect because the horizon in this scene isn't going to be a perfectly straight line. And this one I have the house cut off by the frame a little bit, but I'm going to change that by bringing it in. So I'm going to drop, it's going to take me a minute to commit to a line. I like to lay things out with dots with pen. It's a habit I'm trying to create. It's just something I ended up working with. So one of my favorite details that happened on accident was this fence that kind of came across. Which actually the horizon line is going to go a bit higher. About there. I'll put some more dots in the middle. And I want my vanishing point to be committing yet. Below it here. Again, I'm still just dotting. And for the truck, I'm going to make 2 dots here. I'm going to experiment with a close-up. Just gotta bear with me here for a minute. So that's my truck dots. And thought would be cool with this one is that there's like a sort of a path happening, but going through the blue bonnets, and maybe it would be cool if there was some sort of like kind of a driveway. Like just like not like a paved one, but just the indication of like an area. And I'm just gonna kind of mess with this path, see how it feels. Picturing the fence somewhere about there. And I'm gonna do myself some grass indicators here. It's kind of what I've been doing to remind myself I wanted to place grass there. And the idea, my whole idea behind this dot, I think you should sneak in one bristleberry. If only everyone knew, huh, Steph? And this section of the grass is where I am picturing the array of blue bonnets here, and to remind myself, I think there's gonna be like a big close up here, because I've decided like when I place the horizon line low, it means I'm looking up, and I just like the idea of the looking up with the blue bonnets, a couple big blue bonnets up front. And that's my scratch note for blue bonnets, and I can draw over these dots later in a way where they become invisible. Anyway, I'm not trying to detail too much right now. This is construction dots, I would call them. So I want to experiment with the house being really up on the horizon again. It makes it look very looming, as Lori in chat was talking about describing the house. And even though it's more on flat ground, it'll make it look kind of like you're looking up on a hill a little bit, but it looks cool that way. So I'm going to see what happens. And this is just the grass. And so I'm going to decide, so we have the truck here. I do like the little bush that's growing with the truck, so I'm going to keep that. I'll deal with that later. Back of the truck to be there. Cool. That's where the other side will be, the roof roughly there. And then the last thing to mark is the way this land goes up in the thumbnail. I'll look a little closer here. Oh, and that's what I wanted to do. Is a gate, because I thought about it in the thumbnail, but I didn't actually draw the gate. So I'm gonna just start tossing in, I would say trail lines, call them. Got little rocks, little pebbles. And that's kind of where the grass begins. And I kind of do these like, I kind of think when I'm drawing grass to like not like make negative space instead of positive space, if that makes sense. So really quick, I'm just fixing something on my computer here. Just fixing something on my stream software quick. I have to do 5 things at once when I stream. Can't just draw. It's the challenge. Let's see, where is it? The amount of folders on my computer is getting vast. A vast landscape of folders. There we are. Yes. Oh, what happened? Okay, weird. Just like closed all the pictures I had open. Thanks, computer. Shouldn't have done that, but it'll only take me a second. Man, I had like 10 open too. There we go, that's the one I liked. Down here. And this one, I like the foliage in this one. Lots of different foliage. Okay. Let's say continue sketching this path here. Sometimes I'll get into detailing a section for a second. Not for too long. But I realize this path is a big staple because it kind of guides your eye up to the house. So it's gonna widen drastically here, right to the down to the tape. And here's where the foliage will be really up front. Maybe, you know what, it'd be cool. Just going for it. Screw it. I just love the barbed wire fence with the flowers. Just a little peek of it. So I was thinking, how cool would it be? You got the gate open here, and then another gate up here, just to see. This is why I love these kind of drawings a lot, because I can explore and just not care about what happens. I know the fences or something like that. Wrapped around the outside. And you can see just a little hint of a post here, but it's covered up by the plants. And I'm gonna leave that open. This one's a little more bent, make it look old, and then this one like twists over it like that. It's another thing I heard one day, watching YouTube videos and drawing, because I do that a lot. I do that a lot. Just watch a lot of YouTube videos and drawing about people that are way better at drawing than me. And just they say a lot of great things while you're drawing, and I like hearing those things while I'm drawing. I just like let it roll for hours. Hours and hours. Sometimes. But sometimes I can't have it on. I have to turn it off. So I'm just cross-hatching these log post things. They stand out a little more. I get out here, I gotta make the grass less detailed, the strokes a little bit smaller, and as they get closer, so essentially when I look at these grass blades, I'm imagining a perspective line. Realize I could zoom in a little more there. On top of them, I kind of picture everything sort of like in a box, and that box vanishing off up to here, and keeping those textures following the perspective, and those textures can vanish off into different perspectives because of the way you can rotate any object, and the vanishing point essentially just crawls along the horizon line. So if you have a cube here, and I started turning it, if it was vanishing here, that's how you drew the cube at first. Basically, that just, the point just goes like this, depending on where you turn it. Like if this box was lined up with this point, as I turned it, it would just do that along the horizon line, and you would just adjust those lines accordingly. If you're looking to get into perspective, a great place to start is Marshall Vandrift's course. It's only $12 because it's from 1994. It's really old, but it's just packed with everything you need to know to get going. I've been drawing constantly today. Decided I'm gonna get more of this truck formed, which makes me also decide that the grass is gonna come to here, because I really like how the truck's like buried in the grass. Right from here to the line, and it's like looking at the truck. I'm not gonna get too crazy with it. There's this line that kind of goes like this. And then there's one more. But these blades of grass are interrupting it. So I'm gonna do these little lines. And then just kind of do these perpendicular ones that are getting interrupted to kind of give the illusion. Anytime there's one of those little spaces, to put the blade of grass through it, like that. Super zoom. Anyway. Oh, it zooms out slower than it zooms in. So much better than not being able to zoom though. Even if it takes a second to get back. My camera turned a bit here. Okay. Has this ring just like that, and I'm just gonna color in the ambient occlusion, which is just the place where no light is. Sometimes you can plan out your ambient occlusion, and in that way just go over lines that didn't need to be there. And basically what happens is the hood follows. So a line comes back from these guys here, and I gotta make sure that's vanishing off right. So I want this to kind of go sort of that way. And then all I have to do is make sure this one converges. But I want to mark these hood lines. So there's like a hood that starts there and starts there. It has this little overlap. And then what I like about this side of the truck is that it's actually dented. So it's kind of like dented like that. And that goes down into the grass. try to plan out the absolute blacks if I can spot them ahead of time. Here's where I'm going to allow myself to be a little bit more sketchy, because with these kind of objects, planning a heavy black there. Go back to my dots here. Just kind of make that look chipped out. Up a little bit higher, actually. Curves into that. A little bit more actually, curve into it, sort of like that. Now I'm trying to keep in mind that it's in a box. And kind of trying, even though it's a very curvy truck, there's a way to sort of imagine the curvy lines conforming to the box in perspective. This one's taking a bit more time than before because actually I would say it's a bit more upright. And the cool part about this line is it indicates the whole roof over to the door, which kind of goes over here. If I drew a line, hits about there. Where's the door? Pops right about here. Bumps out a little there. And then this bar goes through the window. Even a little windshield wiper thing that's like that. Now I've tilted the windshield a bit down. But that's okay, I'm gonna allow it to happen. And then we have the window. Oh. Didn't conform that line in perspective, so I had to kind of push it up a little bit. So I want this truck to kind of be going back that way. So in actuality, if you looked at the truck from a perfect profile, the truck bed is roughly and the halfway mark of the truck. If the truck was in a box, you're looking at it from a profile, it's in half. But what happens when you turn a box in perspective? So if this is my cube, or not, this isn't a cube, but the point will still stand. And make sure those are all converging, say. That was a little off. If you find the actual center of this, like we'll use this plane for example, it's not going to be perfect center like that. In perspective, it actually gets pushed out a little more. A simple way to find the middle of a square plane is to draw a straight line from corner to corner. And that will find the exact center in perspective. And you can see it's slightly smaller. And that's what is correct. And basically, that's what's happening to the truck, is the truck bed is gonna appear a bit smaller. But because of perspective and how it fades back, that's the way it has to be. Where the truck lives, there actually is a long driveway, so the walkway isn't a stretch. Oh, cool. This was another favorite thumbnail that I liked, so we'll see. Okay, so truck is buried. I have to keep that in mind. So the grass comes right up to it like this. And this part's cool. It's like buried more in the front than it is in the back, and the footstep, or whatever you'd call it, that you step into the door from, comes fading out of the grass. And to about there. And then the truck bed comes about right here on the door, just below the window. Right about there. And then, because it's so foreshortened, it's probably going to stop about there. I'm eyeballing it. I could draw a box around it and get it perfect, but for the sake of the idea, and sketching and being better, I'm going to eyeball it. And there's a support beam that kind of starts here, right on the wheel well. And the wheel well is going to be foreshortened. So I don't actually, here's an example of having to interpret something. I don't actually have this angle of the truck. So I'm trying to imagine what would that look like turned a bit more. And I would think it would be something like that. It'd be very small. Perspective's a weird thing. I try to practice it every day. Sometimes I open my sketch pad and I literally just draw cubes. Now here's where I'm going to bring this up more, like that, because it was a mistake. And I don't really care about all these scratchy lines, because that's the beauty of gouache. I can go right over it in the color process. That's another thing I didn't mention about how much I like the gouache with the pen and ink, is that you can actually fix pen and ink mistakes with the gouache in certain cases. No, you don't have to do that. I appreciate it though. What's cool now that we're closer up to the truck is we can actually see the windows inside of it, which kind of do this roughly. I'm not going to get crazy with it. Oh, and then there's a little deck that comes out behind the back of the truck. I'm just gonna barely see it. And then a little bar goes like this. Like that. I'm gonna round this off. A little bit more. Okay. And the other thing that we can see is this window. And it chops about here. And then we can also see just barely where that goes down. And then this is just shaded out. And that'll be good for the truck for now. Come back later. I'm going to toss in some blue Bonnet signifiers here. Just tossing in the shape of them, roughly. The color will take them the rest of the way later. I have these cool little flowers that sort of look like that. Little clover flowers. From this distance, up close they don't look like clovers. Okay. So for when rocks get distant, I just do little C marks. Don't want it to be too stony, but a couple rocks here and there. Kind of like the deserted, ancient feel that it has. The cows still live there though. So all I'm doing here is I'm just trying to create different textures as it gets closer. I think that's one of the trickiest parts about drawing foliage is that it all looks the same, but you gotta watch out for too much symmetry. Or otherwise every blade of grass starts looking the same, and I feel like that's something I'll be practicing for the rest of my life. Different ways to mark the paper with foliage. I'm just kind of leaving room for flower options here. Maybe it'd be cool if a blue bonnet popped up behind the truck here. Some overlap, that always looks nice. Shade in behind the truck, some cross hatching, directional. I realized I didn't connect this here. disconnect that. There we go. Now as I move back, I'm gonna make the grass detail much less dense and try to use my eyes to outline groups of grass that have the same shade in unison. And that's how I try to think of it. I don't know if that made sense. So if I see a large patch of grass, it's a little bit darker than the rest, I try to draw an outline around that. And I'll just toss in the rest. Maybe this log pops out again here, interrupted by another leaf right there. And I'll finish the barbed wire. Remember, they were all bent like that. It's cool. One will be like that, that one will be like straight, and another one will be just kind of like none of them are. None of them are straight. And I'm gonna come back for that later. I want to start laying out some more structure. Right here, path goes here. Okay, before I decide where the path is, after the gate, the house will have to be placed. Something about the path just pulls me in more. There we go, we got the truck parked. Had to spend a little more time on it than the last one because it's closer. You can see more of the details. And I might as well finish. So there's a little bit of an edge to it, and then just straight down. Right about there. I'm just kind of inventing some dents. Let's see. Oh, there's one thing here. It's important. There's a broken off mirror bar right here. Kind of just shoots up like that. Okay. And these fences are very... like none of the poles were straight. Just keep going with the fence posts, I guess. Screw it. I'm just gonna put the gate right here. Just make this one super broken. And just a little hint of the... it's bent there. Yeah, I went a bit straight with that one. Didn't work out. Super close. Just a hint of it. Maybe that one gets bent there. This is where it gets all, they kind of separate. And then that part. Here. This is my favorite part of drawing, just getting lost in a scene that you get started. Got our foreground pretty much. And let's see. So let's have like a crooked picturing like those big iron bar, like the ones you see in like horse pens. I mean, I don't know exactly what they look like, but I got a rough idea. I've seen enough to invent one. Dug into the grass there. Should have kept the grass in mind a little bit, but it's okay. You can fix it with gouache. Alright, so we've opened the gate into the yard. Let's see, what else did I take here? Okay, so I'm envisioning this land dipping below this land. Just think it'll look cool. Sort of like that. And I'm not going to spend time grassing all that up yet. I'll just come back for that later. This was the most important line, really. So I'm trying to think. Vanishing point isn't going to be that crazy. Do like that, and then they're relatively square chimneys until it pokes through the roof. I think the doorway to this house is roughly half the height of the wall. And that's what's helped me keep the dimensions. And the little jut out on the chimney is half from the peak of the roof. And that's like so. The roof's going to be about there. Just keeping my perspective in mind. I'm always measuring, kind of invisibly measuring things. This is vanishing off less drastically. And the top of the front wall goes about this far up. I would say it divides the upper portion of the chimney almost into perfect thirds, if I was to look at it like that, and it hits right about there. So if I was to take my perspective, probably about there. I'm gonna roll with that. Bring it out a little more. This chimney can actually come higher now. about here. Off to my vantage point. Roughly like that. I'm not going for perfection, but I'm going for close. Let's see, it's the peak. Let's see if I was X-ray visioning through the chimney. The peak's about there. Draw the soffit, which is the space underneath the roof. And remember what I was talking about with the cube earlier? How to find the center of perspective? Well, I kept that in mind when placing this chimney, though, so it's ever so slightly more back. It's not perfectly in the center. Otherwise, it wouldn't look correct. So these windows come up to about here. Again, almost splitting this bottom. If I split the bottom of this chimney into perfect thirds, roughly perfect thirds, the window starts on the bottom of the first third there. And it comes pretty close to the wall, or the corner. And it goes and disappears behind this little thing laying in the grass. So I'm just gonna put that there. I didn't put it in the last one. There's a sort of little, I can't tell what it looks like in the picture, but it looks like a trash barrel or something, like tipped over. And then just before the chimney, it stops, right about there. Now it's not going to be the same height because I got to carry the perspective line. It's going to pop out there. It's going to be overlapped by the chimney. And I'm making sure that those crucial moments of overlap are accurate because it just helps give it that 3D-ness, for lack of a better term. Depth. 3D-ness, depth, same thing. There we go. I'll place a little inside line to show the there's kind of a wooden frame going this way. And the other thing that's really characteristic of every window and door on this house is it has these sort of cornerstones on the top like this, and there's like a triangle one in the middle, and they all, it's almost like every window kind of has like eyelashes. Rock eyelashes, basically what they are. So vanishing slightly. What was my line here? It brought me to about that. Make it a little less harsh. Let's go to about that. So that line was wrong. That's okay. So I'll converge. So I have to imagine where the tip of the roof is. It's right about behind the chimney here. And that's where my line is gonna pop out. So like right about that. And I'm just gonna go for it. Something like that. Those are the lines you just gotta kind of just go for. So I have to leave. Thank you. I sent a donation for all the hard work, interesting tidbits. Send me a picture of the sketch when you finish for today. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. I hope you have a great day, and I love you. Thank you so much. Above the door, the stone alignment is called a soldier row. Nice. Thanks, Robert. Robert's always good for those random facts, too. A soldier row. Cool. Didn't know that. Learned something today. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday, guys. I really appreciate you. I'm sorry I didn't notice the donation pop up. It's because I'm using my phone to film, so I'll have to work on that. Figure out how to get that better. And throw in the barbed wire. That's what I mean by hop around. I can be in the middle of drawing the house and just take a break from it for a second. Okay. So pretty happy with that line, and it decides the rest of the house. So all I have to do is just make sure this is wider than this. Relatively. Like when you're learning perspective, you can use rulers from your vanishing points to make it perfect. But as long as it's close, like within a couple millimeters, like if you like put your ruler on the line that you're trying to get in perspective, and you put it off to your vanishing point, and it's like a little bit off, as long as like I mean, maybe in certain exceptions where the vanishing point is like super crunched together, you're gonna notice those little things. But like normally when you're trying to draw realism, the vanishing points are off the paper. So like what I mean by the vanishing points are off the paper is if this is my horizon right here, I imagine the horizon going off the side of the paper like this, and my vanishing point is somewhere out here. So like if I follow this house line that I just drew, right, I have to see where that takes me and stops on the horizon. And that's kind of what I'm visualizing. So if I follow that line, it hits the horizon off the side of the sketchbook about here. So now every bit of the house lines are going to go towards that dot off the sketch pad. And then the same thing on this side. There's a little shed over here that's going to be a cube rotated in the other direction. So it's going to vanish this way towards the horizon. So the roof is going to go and conform to that. And the farther the vanishing points go out, the more telescopic your shot is going to look. And what I mean by that, the more zoomed in it's going to look. The closer the vanishing points come in, the more fisheye it's going to be. And kind of, you're going to find yourself having to curve things to make them fit and look right. So that's kind of what I'm imagining in my head. I had to start by drawing construction lines, and when I was learning it, I would fill an entire sketch pad page with all the pencils and all the lines and would go in with the pen. And it was helpful. And I just did that until I got enough of a feel for it to take them away and started using dots. And the thing is, too, is like, I guess one thing I'll add to it is I used to get super attached to making my pen go all the way to the vanishing point. It's kind of like I picture it like standing there about to do a golf swing, right? And you're standing there and you're just like ghost swinging the club up to the ball over and over and over again, like thinking it's going to make your hit better, when really like I think you can overdo that. And it's kind of the same thing with like striking a line. Is there's a point where you just got to kind of go for it. And once you get one good one, I don't need to follow a vanishing, like go all the way here off the side of the page and like bring my pen and then like touch it now. I can just use this as a relative line now. And as long as I imagine an array of lines, that's kind of what I picture. This like array of lines that are evenly placed out in here, invisible lines. And I just try to follow that and just converge it like that. And now here is a good example of making a mistake, and I'll show you how I'll fix it. So I just drew it too long, basically. I kind of wanted the house to stop right about here. Here's another interesting thing. So a perspective problem that you'll run into is when the plane of the box is tilted up. And there's another vanishing point that comes into place to solve this problem. So if you have your horizon line that comes out, I'm using this pen to represent my horizon line, extending off the side of the sketch pad. Wherever this box is vanishing to, the top of this box, if I had this, imagine the roof of the house as a flap to a box, and if I just pushed it down as if I was closing the box, if I took that line and vanished it off to the horizon point here, somewhere way out here, I'll put a vertical line on that vanishing point. I'll follow it up to wherever it hits the roof line. So I have a horizon line that comes out here. I find where my box vanishes to on it. I put a vertical guideline, and that's called the vanishing trace. Wherever the roof line hits on that vanishing trace, so you can imagine there's another line like this, sitting there. Wherever that roof line hits on this is where I put my dot. So you can imagine, I'll even draw it on the table. If I follow up my pen here, there's roughly a dot right here on the table. That's what I want to draw my roof to. So when I draw this line, it'll make sure that it converges correctly with this line. Roughly. So if I follow that line back here, it's roughly that. And these two lines are now converging up. It's basically, all I'm doing is taking the drawing and going like this. And so basically this line will become a tree. And I will hide the line with just ambient occlusion of the leaves, like that. And later on, when I come in with darker greens and stuff, and fix that up. So you have that line, have that line. And maybe there we go. Now, right about here. Actually, I might have to add land. And just pretend that my horizon line got lifted up a little bit. Slightly. Trying to maximize the depth, but reduce the amount of perspective warp. So I'm trying to find that fine line. And this little hut starts right about here off the side of it that's missing a roof. And I'm going to try not to make the mistake that I made on my last watercolor, that I drew a little too big. Oops. I haven't fixed the problem of this table not being perfectly secure yet. If I show you on the last drawing, oh. The tape isn't letting me. it's a little bit more 3-point perspective, where the third point is like vanishing somewhere below the screen. So on this one, I'm taking out the 3-point warp a little bit more than the drawing before it. Three-point warp, 4-point warp done right makes things look super immersive. And there's ways to hide the fisheye. And that's kind of like the phase I'm in right now, is learning how to hide the fisheye but make it look like you know, how did I fit that many things in the drawing? Okay, so I'm going to continue blocking out this house. After I took a sip of that, of course. So vanishing. So the roof of this hut comes right below this, but the body of it stops about there. Yeah, I'm gonna have to add some land here, I think. Sort of like that. And down slightly more. There's a little bush right there. Sort of something like that. And forgot that there's also another chimney situation going on here. Being careful not to go higher than that chimney, which could use a fixin'. So right about there. And I can gouache it up later. Can gouache it up. I lost my line. It's okay. That's fine. So the roof is like this and does the same thing, except it's like broken boards and rafters now instead. And it appears much longer from the profile view, but I'm foreshortening it more on purpose. And the mistake I made on the last watercolor was not taking the time to really just get these boards looking overlappy. So the ones going across are on top, and the ones going down are underneath. And they're all crooked. So I don't really need to worry about the roof boards over here being in perspective as much. Okay. Didn't quite get the line of this chimney right on the top. Alright. Now, there we go. The basic block out of the house. Now what I'm going to do, remember the trick I was showing you earlier about drawing a line from corner to corner, straight line, to get the center? So I'm going to do that, but I'm not going to actually draw an X with the pen. I'm going to kind of, I don't know if this is going to make sense, but this is how I think of it. You know a sparkler, like the fireworks? You light up and you can wave it around in the dark, and almost kind of, if you move it fast enough, you can see the phantom of the sparkler and almost draw shapes in the dark because it kind of burns into your eyes. In the same way, I try to do that with the tip of the pen, if that makes sense, when I draw those lines. And I just try to focus where those phantoms are intersecting, like the phantom pen tips, and getting a general idea of that center. And I know it's roughly about there by doing that. And so that was my my little way of that I came up with of like thinking about it, I guess. It's not like I made that up, but like that's how I like to think of it, like the little analogy in my head, and that's how I like to visualize it. Strangely enough, there's something in my brain that happens where I can see the last practice swing of the line just long enough to get an idea of where the dot is. Little fast tricks like that really help me when I'm placing things quick. And the way I've been thinking of it is this door, like the main door, is slightly lower than half, and it's centered in the center of the door is centered with this center of the wall. So what I mean by that is it kind of goes like this. And I'm going to orient the door more to the left, slightly. Like that. And I'm going to have to add the soldier, what was it called? What was it? A soldier row? Is that what it was called? I can't find it in the chat now. Oh, there it is. Yeah, a soldier row. Okay, I was right. And there's a bush thing growing right in front of the door. Literally. There's just a little evergreen tree growing right in front of the door. So I'm just going to put that there because that's cool. And that's roughly where the door is placed. Now, I've been taking all sorts of notes. So the windows of the first floor windows, they're slightly higher, or if I drew the soldier row like this, it splits in half the soldier row, and that's how much excuse me, higher they are. So oh, and also the stones change color about right here too. So I'm going to draw just some detailed marks there. Because that's where the window starts, roughly a little bit after that. But I'm going to go, it's farther away, so I'm going to shrink all that a little bit. So that measurement dot I made. And the window goes down slightly below half of the door. So it's right about there. And then, because those lines are pretty much parallel, I don't have to worry about perspective, but this line, I have to worry about the perspective. And it's vanishing with all these. And I drew that way too big. And what ends up happening with these interpretations is that the proportions end up being, the ratios end up being correct, but things may not be exactly shaped. And so this door it's not even a door, it's like a window. It's the same height. So I'm gonna put 2 dots. Larger space there, smaller space there. And there's the window marks. I'm gonna try to abide by that here. I'm gonna even go, I even pushed it too far. So every dot I'm imagining just slightly less than I did. Like that. It just about goes into the grass. And then a space, and then the last window. About there. Following that line of perspective. This line's pretty much parallel with the line next to it. I went too low with it there, see that? I went a little too far, but that's fine. Now I'm just going to add these little crossbars in the middle. And I'm not going to bother shading the extra tiny crossbars because from this far away, in my opinion, the detail isn't worth it. And it'll take away from the depth. Just the main indent line, really. And then just shading it off. Pure black. Same thing here. So it has like a beam. Goes a little bit lower. And then like that. Then another one about there. And then I'm going to color the rest in. And then be careful not to hit the little bush that decided to make its home right in front of that doorway. The other window I'm going to do, because it's the same height as these. So if I follow this up, and this window, so I think of this one, this in the same way as the door, if I cut this off and thought of that as a square and did the X in that, the window centers over that dot line. So I'm going to take out the phantom pen tool to see where that X crosses. And it's like about there, a little bit higher. But the height doesn't matter because the height is already established by the other windows. So I just have to line up right about there and then just center that window kind of like so. And I'm gonna keep note to make it slightly bigger than the ones on the other side because it's closer to us. Just to, in every little detail I try to think of, like, how is it vanishing? If you apply the vanishing point to every blade of grass, every object, the drawing will just feel that much more like everything is in the same universe. And I'm going much slower. Off to the side, there's like these rocks around it. Because the house has to be, is one of the things that has to look like the house. And I'm just going to put little lines as the soldier rows. I'm not going to fully detail them in as these windows go farther away. Now these windows actually don't have soldier rows. However, I'm going to make this one squeeze pretty close, and it's the same height as these windows still, and same length. Like, I'm just keeping them within this imaginary line that's going across the house like this, religiously, no matter how weird it looks. Sometimes something that looks right in perspective isn't intuitive. And then the same thing with this one. It has the same height, but it's longer and kind of almost hits the grass. And it's a little off center. Kind of like that. And like the thing with perspective is like everything's relative. So like once you get the drawing going, you can just use everything you've alreed drawn to keep it consistent. I got a little sloppy with this window on accident, so just fixing it. Just color it in. And then this one has the crossbar too. And again, I'm going to leave out the little ones. Working small here. We'll just say the atmosphere blurred them out. Now on this side, we're going to see a much thicker indication of the indentation because of the perspective. You can see into the window more, the side of it. Something like that. And I've actually pooped some ink off the side of my hand on accident. So that's part of the drawing now. Nothing we can do. Gotta love that handy dandy phantom pen tool. Absolutely. I have that one on my belt ready to go at all times. The ghost pen. Ghost pen. Let's see. The only windows we have left to do are the upper ones, and I'm gonna wipe my hand off this, get this ink off my hand. I think this is quickly becoming my favorite layout for this painting. I already like it more than the one before it. And I guess that's just a testament to the rules of design working, which is do a bunch of thumbnails, and draw it 100 times until you find the idea that you like. It's working for me right now. I had to push through drawing the same thing over and over again, but honestly it's kind of twisting back on itself and it's becoming enjoyable. I'm like very relaxed right now. Just taking my time, and there's no rush with drawing. I mean, it's one of those things. I used to think that I had to be able to draw as fast as I can because not enough time in my life to get all the drawings I want done, but I guess the best analogy to plug here would be like slow and steady wins the race with that, because the way I'd say it is more consistent quality strokes and more intentional strokes will result in something getting done quicker than sketchy, unintentional strokes that had no thought behind them. And the best advice I could give to improvised drawing is to never draw a line unless it has a purpose. Ask yourself why you're drawing that line. Why are you drawing it? Are you just putting it on the paper to hope that it's gonna draw something for you? Because if that's the case, then it will look like that, and it will have that kind of energy behind it. Something I discovered about lines through just researching and my own experimentation is they have flow and energy to them. And depending on how fast you draw them, how slow you draw them, the arc they have, the width they have, or the weight is another word for that. Depends on how they feel and what they say to you. And it's amazing once you start diving into the diversity of different lines, how deep that topic is alone. Just drawing lines, how they go on the paper. So these upper windows, I try to look for things that are lined up in halves or in thirds. Pretty much everything in reality can be split into halves and thirds. And anything that's abnormal, it kind of becomes obvious because it just really won't fit into halves and thirds, and then kind of through that obviousness, it's easy to draw, if that makes sense. So the first thing I notice is that the upper windows divide, one side of them divide the lower windows in half perfectly in the center. So if I drew a line up, I'm going to make 2 dots for the top and the bottom, like that, because that's about how close to the roof it is, the top of the window, right about there. And the other side comes just short of the door in the middle, or the longer window, just short of it. And in perspective, this one's gonna look like it's pretty much over it, but I'm gonna go slightly before. And that, to me, would be correct. And I'll zoom in here, because I know it's tiny, so you can get a better idea of what's going on. Get my camera to stop shaking. The zoomed in shots are much more shaky. Okay. Try to move slow. So this line, left side of the window, splits this window in half. And the same thing over here. So if I found the center with the phantom pen and draw a line up from the center, that's where that line of that window is going to be. Just like that. Right there. May feel wrong, but as long as I stay true to the other rule of the other side of the window, which is slightly before the center one right there, I'm going to do a dot slightly before it, keeping the top line in perspective, and draw it down. Make sure that those lines are converging. And there it is. That's how they're placed. I've been really practicing just trying to see how things line up like that, and it's helped me so much. And the more I do it, the more my brain is just starting to do it naturally. It's just, without having to say that stuff, I mean, I'm kind of narrating myself through it for the sake of the live stream, but when I'm doing it, when I'm drawing, not while I'm not streaming, it's just, it can just happen. I'll just kind of visualize it. And just like the other windows, we can see the indent here. Boy, I am footprinting ink all over this drawing. It's because of those filled in windows. They're not dry yet. I'm resting my hand on them, smudging them. Okay, so the indent of these windows. And then the crossbar, keeping the crossbar in perspective. Ambient occlusion, pure black. And I'm going to remember to not rest my hand on those this time. So the next thing I'm going to jump to is the roof shingles, and there's a lot of them, but I kind of divide them with eye. Now, there's a way to perfectly, mathematically draw and space out squares in perspective, and I'm not going to do that right now because it takes, like, I have to lay out a cube and lines and stuff, but because I've done that footwork and I kind of know how it fades away by seeing it done with a ruler correctly, I can kind of intuitively space these in a way that will look correct enough. Now, as I draw these, I'm remembering that vanishing trace dot that I have, the vertical one off to the side up here, and I'm vanishing those up to that one. I'm not vanishing those down to the horizon this way. That's the wrong way. You have to ask yourself, what's closest to me? And where is it going? So this corner is closest to me. And where is it going? It's going up and away to the right. Up and away to the right to the vanishing trace. This one's farther from me, but it's still going up and away to the right. And so what I've already worked out is that the first width of the shingle is the little right angle cutout that happens where the chimney sets into the house. And that is exactly the width of a shingle, just the way they built the house. I already drew that one wrong. They just have to converge a little. And in this scenario, the getting smaller of the shingles is going to be less drastic than it would be with a more drastic vanishing point setup. But right about now is where it's really going to become noticeable. And then I'm going to really exaggerate it about here. I'm not going to worry too much. And I don't want to make them perfect solid lines. I kind of want to keep my pen skippy, because when the watercolor comes in later on, it will add that extra detail. The only other detail I'm going to ink in is this line that goes down the center of the shingles, because they're not that long actually. It's like a shingle piece is about this big and they stack them on top of each other. And this is another great example of a really distorted square plane or rectangle plane that I have to find the center of. So how do I do that? The same trick. I just imagine this corner, I draw a straight line, take out the phantom pen tool. And this is one of the more awkward ones, but this is where it comes in so much use to get these right. And I'm seeing that the halfway point's right about there. And I'm going to use dots to kind of draw that down. And you can see, because I abided by the X, that it's slightly up more, because this plane is going up and away from us. So anything going away from us, the center is going to be slightly farther back. And on that note of finishing the roof there, I am going to go to the bathroom and refill my drink. So I'll be right back. I appreciate y'all hanging out so much. Thank you. Hang in there if you want to see more drawing, because we are not done. I don't think I'm going to get to watercoloring it on a stream today. Maybe I will. We'll see. It's more just like talking for 4 hours gets exhausting. More than drawing for 4 hours gets exhausting. So I might finish the sketch with y'all watercolored off camera. Then we'll do some other art next time. But for now, I'll see you when I get back. Sorry. Just stop the camera. I'm taking a break, dude. Stupid. Sorry. Just stop the camera. I'm taking a break, dude. Stupid. Alright. Getting back at it. See where I'm at with the pen ink amount. See how much fuel is left in the tank. Sorry for those crazy mic noises. I had to move it. Oh, that's why. There we go. Okay. Now the tape isn't actually crooked. It's just the camera is on a slight angle from the drawing. You know, let me see if I can fix it. Let's see. Let's see if that did it. It's a bit better. There we go. Just gotta rotate it. It's not going to be perfect because it's not directly on top of it, because then I can't see it. I had to make a compromise between where the camera was and where the sketch pad was. Surprised it's still that full. Sometimes what happens is the ink will get stuck on the walls of the converter, and it'll be a thin coat, but it'll actually be empty. I've become a fountain pen nerd pretty much overnight. They're just so good. You can put any color you want in them too, not to mention you can get metallic ink and put metallic ink in it. I mean, that's fun. It's just got a syringe inside of it, and you just put whatever ink you want in it. It's really easy. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to put in is the little hut that sits next to the house. The one mental note I made from the last drawing was that I wanted it to be farther from the house because I put it too close last time. It was about here, so I'm going to put it about here. But then the road points to it directly. Go a little bit farther with it so the road doesn't point right at it. I'm going to go like here. And this has the bush here. And there's this like tank on the side of it. Like that. Yep, I think I've decided this is my favorite one. I think this is what the painting is pretty much going to be. Okay, let's see. It's actually two bushes. And I'm looking at a 3/4 view of it. And I think what I realized I did wrong here. I gotta bring everything a little, like a tad lower, unfortunately. And vanish this so slightly like that. I didn't want it to be in perfect 1 point. So, see if I can fix that before it's too late. So the barrel is slightly more than half of the height of the wall. Like that. And then this is gonna vanish down now. But not like crazy. And we have the bent up roof. I want to establish this sidewall so I can draw the other parts of it better. Oh, I'll roll with it. I wouldn't call it a pinpoint accuracy placement of like what I had in my head. And this is gonna vanish out. Somewhat like that. And then the vanishing. Okay, so yeah, this part is particular about this shed. Bring this out a bit more. The roof is folded here, so it goes kind of like this. And then the skeleton pops out. With the rafter boards again. Then it kind of goes down a little bit because the wood's like falling apart. And it folds like twice. And again here. And then the flap is up like that. Pretty happy with that. Just keep rolling with it. Now the door on this one just goes right up to the roof. But there are these boards under it, like this, that are showing. And then find the center. It's a little bit off. Like in the actual reference photo, it's a little bit off center of the shed, but because of perspective, it actually makes it center, if that makes sense. So because it's a little bit closer, and perspective is pushing it out a little bit farther, it actually centers it. So it canceled itself out. It was an interesting situation. Just putting little rock details. Gonna color this in here. And then the same thing with this door. Cool. What else did I have on my thumbnail here? So I've left room for some things. Maybe these are a couple rocks. Screw it. A couple rocks right there. Adds a little realism. I'm just gonna have it dip below the fence. There, maybe. The land has a little hill there. Could be some blue bonnets far away. Okay. Now, the last thing to do is the clouds. And before I do the clouds, I have to decide where my light source is coming from. And I think it would be cool if the light source was shining in, like, right here. Because here's what I'm thinking. The path is pointing you right through the painting, from the truck to the house, and then also the nice sunset over the horizon is going to draw you there too. Oh, and we have trees, of course. How could I forget? So there's a tree off to the right of the house, I know. I've drawn it a couple times now, but we're not going to see it. It's about right there. So there's also a shed about a little bit off the sketch pad. Just looking through my references over here to the left. I'm not going to worry about the stone details in the houses yet. Blocking my trees next. So, in the last one I did, the horizon was a little bit higher. So, in this case it's a little bit lower. So we're not going to see as much of the tree line. And we're going to be looking under the trees that are near the house. And in the reference photos from earlier, there's this tree that kept popping up above the house behind it, but I don't know if we're going to see it. Maybe just barely. That's it. And then the rest of it's kind of here. And then in between these two trees will be a tree line. And we'll see that more clearly with the color. No, I don't want this to be an outline at all, really. The watercolor is going to take care of the rest. I'm just doing little indications of shapes. Generally, I guess what I'm thinking about right now is like there's tall trees, medium trees, and low trees. There's like these little shrubs that'll have a different color, and then there's like the tree canopy. That's about as high as it'll go. And I made sure to draw above that ink splotch I made earlier. And the sun will be dipped just below the trees in the blasting bright light right here. And I'm just gonna very lightly etch out these kind of cloud formations. Where there's a sort of kind of front moving in, which I wanted to stick with that. So you know when it's like there's a little bit of blue sky showing in the sunset, but there's this giant cloud front that's kind of consuming. And I'm purposely moving my pen really fast so that the ink is coming out really thin on it. And it allows it so I don't get these crazy thick lines for the clouds. And the watercolor is going to do most of the work here, but I'm trying to stay within this style for my studies, as like everything kind of has a little bit of an outline to it. But yeah. So I'm gonna try to keep this curve clouds maybe come off. And as the clouds go above me more, I'm trying to think about like how I'll be able to see like underneath the cloud kind of a little bit better. Thinking about how air affects it. Kind of picturing like this little wisp that got disconnected over here. That's about it. I think one more section over here that's like indicating this big, wasn't the quite right direction, line. Because it's billowing, it's the front moving in, so it's like it's catching that headwind, right? Pushing it up maybe, and get thin back here. Went a little dark with the lines there, but that's fine. The color will make you forget it. There we go. That'll be fine. Cool. Hey, what's going on? Long time no see. Welcome back to the stream. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Oh man, I gotta remember that the table tips like that. So this is what we did earlier today. That was the first session. So, working our way to the color, which I'm not sure I'm gonna get to coloring the whole thing tonight, but I'm definitely close to finishing the sketch here. Kind of want to make these really like wispy and magical clouds. I don't know why. Screw it. There we go. Something like that. Yeah, no problem. So I'm starting to think of like what's my value map now. And over here, this shape here, if I outlined this right here, that's gonna be the brightest part of the painting. That's my value number one. So as I organize my values, I'm thinking light, medium, dark. And then I subdivide each one of those categories into values that are much closer to each of those categories. So for this one, rather than going a nice dark cloud, I'll just a little bit. The midground and so I think the truck and the two buildings will be the darkest. And the rest will be the mid. The light will be kind of a bounced sunset light from the above. And I think I'll control my colors a little bit differently this time. Last time I used cerulean blue for my sky blue, but I'm wondering how it'll come out if I use ultramarine instead. Anyway, without further ado, that's about 3.5 hours there. I am pretty streamed out, and we got 2 done today pretty much. I'm happy that I got this new sketch done. I'm actually really excited to watercolor it. I probably will end up watercoloring it tonight, but I will have to do it without constantly talking. Anyway, good to see you, Dorian. I'm sorry you caught the tail end of it. Thank you so much for everyone else for hopping in and hanging out this whole time. And hope you have a great rest of your Saturday night, wherever you are. I know it's probably a crazy time for you, Dorian, but sorry I don't tune in so much as I would like. I also didn't do any art. It's just work. And my son's autism has started to take on this aggressing sphere. It's alright. You don't... It's not a problem. You just hop in whenever you want. Doesn't matter. But I appreciate it. And I wish the best for your son, and I hope that all goes the best as possible. But without further ado, I hope you have a great rest of your day. You too, Kirsten. I hope you enjoy the rest of your night. And I will see you all soon, because I'm way too excited about this medium, and I'm probably going to be doing a lot of these. because I realized I could finish a couple of these in one day if I go at it. Also, the big painting's coming soon. The big 24 by 38 of this, and I'm almost positive this is what I'm going with. It's my favorite one so far. So, without further to say, see you next time. Thank you so much.